the water doc. I've been practicing medicine without the use of any pharmaceutical product for the past decade. I merely use essential nutrients, specifically purified drinking water, a food-grade, 100% natural, health-giving Ionique mineral supplement to help correct the physical ailments of people. Are you one of those who are sick and tired of being sick and tired? Are you interested to learn how vital essential nutrients help you manage your long-standing health problems? Join me today as I share with you the amazing health benefits of taking purified drinking water and Ionique concentrated mineral drops, or Ionique CMD, that provide you the more natural, safer, easier, cheaper, and more effective approach to disease management. Today, I shall discuss diabetes mellitus, or high blood sugar level. In 2016, a study indicated that around 6 million Filipinos are diabetic. Dr. Augusto Litongqua, the president of the Philippine Center for Diabetes Education Foundation, declared that for every person diagnosed to have diabetes, there is one person suffering from diabetes but has not yet been diagnosed. This declaration doubles the number of diabetics in the country to 12 million. He also mentioned that one diabetic dies from the complications of the disease every 6 seconds. This is a very dreadful proclamation to those who are suffering from the disease. Mainstream medicine describes diabetes mellitus as a metabolic disease in which a person has a high blood glucose or sugar, either because insulin production is inadequate or because the body cells do not respond properly to insulin, or both. I describe diabetes differently. It is the state of persistent elevation of blood glucose levels resulting from prolonged deficiency of cerebrospinal fluid in the brain brought about by an intentional chronic dehydration. You have diabetes if your fasting blood sugar is above 126 milligrams per deciliter or 7.4 millimoles per liter, or your glycosylated hemoglobin or HbA1c is greater than 6.5%, or your oral glucose tolerance test or OGTT is greater than 200 milligrams per deciliter or 11.7 millimoles per liter. The fasting blood sugar and glycosylated hemoglobin tests are done after you undergo fasting for 8 hours prior to the extraction of blood sample. Once diagnosed, you are confirmed to have the disease. Now, let me explain to you the disease so that you will have better control of it. Diabetes is actually not a disease of the pancreas and insulin, but a disease where the brain is involved. Please allow me to explain. The brain is the main organ of the central nervous system. The central nervous system is similar to the local electric company that supplies power to the community. Both the brain and the electric company utilize water as the primary source of power. During drought or water shortage, the electric company can rely on other sources to generate power. These include solar energy, wind, geothermal energy, coal, diesel fuel, or nuclear energy. The brain also relies on water as its primary source of energy. It is for this reason that it is immersed in water called cerebrospinal fluid. When the body is not properly hydrated for a prolonged period of time, the body goes into a state known as an intentional chronic dehydration. When this state occurs, 66% of water inside the cell is lost, 26% of water outside the cell is lost, and 8% of water from the blood is lost. This drought also causes deficiency of the cerebrospinal fluid. The cause of unintentional chronic dehydration include the lack of water intake or intake of wrong fluids, the intake of diuretics, the drugs that stimulate the kidneys to eliminate more water than normally, such as furosemide, spironolactone, and hydrochlorothiazides, intake of alcoholic beverages, and the intake of caffeinated substances such as coffee, tea, soft drinks, energy drinks, and chocolates. The head is approximately 7% of the total body weight. Despite this, the head receives around 20% of the total blood circulation because of the brain's high demand of energy to function optimally. In normal well-hydrated state, the amount of glucose being supplied to the brain will suffice, since the brain can rely on adequate volume of water that provides sufficient energy that it requires for optimal functioning. In unintentional chronic dehydration, there is insufficient water to provide the energy required by the brain to function optimally. Thus, it seeks for another source of energy, just like what I mentioned earlier about the electric company during water shortage. This alternative energy source is glucose or sugar. During unintentional chronic dehydration, the normal amount of glucose that is being supplied to the brain becomes inadequate. For the brain to be able to receive more glucose, one of the histamine's deputies, prostaglandin E, becomes increasingly active in the water distribution system of the body. When this chemical is released, it inhibits the insulin-producing cells to manufacture and to secrete insulin. In effect, the gates in the cell membrane that are sensitive to insulin do not open and results in the accumulation of glucose in the circulation. I mentioned earlier that the head receives around 20% of the body's blood circulation. If I may use the figure of 100 milligrams per deciliter as the highest normal blood sugar level, 20 milligrams per deciliter or 20% of 100 will be received by the head in normal conditions. In the state of water shortage of the body, this amount will be insufficient to provide adequate energy to the brain and will jeopardize its function. With the increase, let us use the figure of 300 milligrams per deciliter. There will be 60 milligrams per deciliter or 20% of 300 or 40 milligrams per deciliter more than the 20 milligrams per deciliter, the amount of glucose in a properly hydrated brain that will be utilized by the brain as its energy source. The amount of increase in blood glucose will depend on the amount of depleted cerebrospinal fluid in the brain. The greater the depleted cerebrospinal fluid, the higher is the increase in blood sugar level. Their relationship is merely proportional. So, to reduce the amount of blood sugar level, you must rehydrate the brain to restore ample volume of the cerebrospinal fluid. A diabetic is always thirsty. He always feels dehydrated. Unfortunately, he is so because he does not drink sufficient volume of water, and when he drinks, he prefers to drink the wrong kind of beverage, one that the brain does not recognize to produce cerebrospinal fluid. When the body continues to be in a state of unintentional chronic dehydration for a very prolonged period, the brain will then rely more on glucose as its primary source of energy. Moreover, as the body remains in a state of chronic unintentional dehydration, prostaglandin E will also be released into the circulation. If this happens for a very prolonged period of time, prostaglandin E will activate interleukin-6 as cytokine. This initiates the destruction of the insulin-producing cells of the pancreas. When the insulin-producing cells of the pancreas is damaged, one will no longer produce insulin and develops insulin-dependent diabetes. When the body is in the state of unintentional chronic dehydration, the blood is thicker. If more glucose is added to the blood that is already thick, the blood gets much viscid. This condition of the blood will attract water from the adjacent cells through a process known as osmosis. This extraction of water from the various tissues will supply more water to the water-deficient brain. Remember that water is the primary energy source of the brain. When water is extracted out of the cells, they shrink and degenerate. If the organ involved is the heart, you develop heart failure. If it is the kidney, you develop kidney failure. The degeneration of the cells causes various complications such as gangrene, neuropathy, retinopathy, nephropathy, erectile dysfunction, poor wound healing, coma, and many others. So, to resolve diabetes, you must first correct the dehydrated state of the body and the brain. Rehydrate the body properly. How do you hydrate your body adequately? It has been taught for decades that 8 to 10 glasses a day is the right volume you should drink. The adult human body is around 70% water, and so that rule of 8 to 10 glasses a day is very, very wrong. The required daily water intake is 50 milliliters per kilogram body weight per day, or 50 ml per kilo per day. The computed volume is to be taken on the following schedules. 1/4 of the daily total volume must be taken upon waking up in the morning and at bedtime. 1/8 of the daily total volume must be taken 30 minutes before lunch and supper. 1/8 of the daily total volume must be taken 2.5 hours after breakfast and lunch. Take additional 250 ml of water for every 30 minutes of strenuous activity. Drink water liberally anytime you are thirsty. 50 ml per kilogram per day is the minimum volume of water you must drink. You can drink more if you desire to do so. This will hydrate your body better. A word of advice though, if you are past the age of 40 years, do not rely on thirst as your signal to water intake, because at this age, the sensation of thirst is usually substituted with the sensation of hunger. At this stage, you tend to be hungrier than thirstier, and so you eat more and drink less. This results to lack of water intake, leading to a state of unintentional chronic dehydration, the root cause of diabetes. Because of the prevalent water pollution everywhere, I recommend that you only take purified drinking water purchased from a certified drinking water refilling stations that utilize various water purification technologies, unless you own a reliable water purifier. A reliable water purifier bears a certification of the National Sanitation Foundation, or NSF International, to be Class 1 on standards 42 and 53. So check on this certification. Since most of the water purification technologies eliminate the essential minerals aside from most water contaminants during purification, the lost minerals must be replenished using Ionique concentrated mineral drops, or Ionique CMD. Water without minerals is dead and acidic and cannot truly hydrate the cells. I teach how to take Ionique CMD properly in our health seminars. Its dosage depends on the age and the medical condition you are suffering from. So please visit our office for these important instructions. Aside from drinking water adequately, you must also avoid substances that dehydrate the body. These are diuretics such as furosemide, spironolactones, hydrochlorothiazides. The first two are used to resolve edema in patients with kidney disease and congestive heart failure. Hydrochlorothiazides are used in conjunction with antihypertensive drugs. Also, caffeinated substances such as coffee, tea, soft drinks, energy drinks, and chocolates. Also alcoholic beverages and other commercial beverages. Dr. Feredum Batmanhelig, the author of the book Your Body's Many Cries for Water, declared, "Water is the only prescribed beverage for the human body, and nothing substitutes for water." One of the vital aspects of managing diabetes is diet. If you are diabetic, you are often offered meals that are low in simple carbs with low glycemic index, low fats, and you are advised to take smaller amounts of food more frequently to avoid the surge of blood sugar. I often observe that when this type of diet is followed, the blood sugar is often unstable because you are always hungry and engaged in binging. When you are hungry, you will eat anything because hunger is a sensation that is very difficult to ignore and suppress. Worse, if you are hungry, you will eat more food at a faster speed, and when you are not selective of the foods, this will cause the abrupt surge in blood sugar level which you tried so hard to control for the past period of time. My dietary recommendations for diabetic are the following. You must avoid simple carbohydrates that have high glycemic indices. Some of these are rice, pasta, flour products, root crops, corn, yellowish ripe fruits, chico, ice cream, chocolates, imported fruits, condiments with hidden sugars such as ketchup, gravy, sweet and spicy sauce, mayonnaise, and also instant seasonings. Rice is 80% sugar. You should avoid any form of rice: white rice, brown rice, red rice, black rice, all forms of native cakes and products made from rice, sushi, porridge, congee, fried rice, paella, etc. Pasta includes macaroni, noodles, spaghetti, carbonara, pancit of all types, and the likes. Flour products include bread, cookies, crackers, biscuits, waffles, pancakes, cakes, muffins, cupcakes, pies, pizza, flour and breadcrumb-coated fried foods, dishes where flour is used to thicken the sauce, etc. Root crops include potato, sweet potato, carrots, yam, cassava, turnips, beets, and others. Corn include popcorn, cornstarch, cornflakes, cornic. Yellowish ripe fruits include papaya, mango, banana, durian, pineapple, jackfruit, and others. Squash because it is starchy. The aforementioned items will easily increase the blood glucose levels even if you take them in minute quantities. Example, if your blood sugar level is 300 milligrams and 1 milligram is added, the total will be 301 milligrams and not 299 milligrams. If 0.5 milligram is added, 300 becomes 300.5 milligrams, not 299.5 milligrams. If 0.001 milligram is added, 300 milligrams becomes 300.001 milligrams and not 299.999. I recommend that you totally refrain from taking any of the items mentioned previously. So what foods can a diabetic eat? They are leafy vegetables, fruits considered as vegetables, all forms of meats, fruits that do not totally turn yellow when ripe, seasonings such as vinegar, salt, patis, coconut milk, pepper, chili, herbal spices, garlic, onion, tomato, and ginger. Leafy vegetables would include pechay, cabbage, spinach, mustard, lettuce, kale, watercress, malunggay, gabi leaves, Chinese pechay, tops such as kamote, saluyot, kangkong, sayote, squash tops, cassava, sili, ampalaya, etc. Other vegetables such as cauliflower, broccoli, banana blossom may be eaten. Fruit vegetables include eggplant, palaya, green papaya, sayote, patola, okra, various beans, cucumber, tomato, bell pepper, zucchini, upo, string beans, bagu beans, peas, young jackfruit, and others. Vegetables are the sources of carbohydrates. The recommended vegetables are mostly complex sugars and they are not easily absorbed into the system. Example is, when you eat malunggay leaves, you will note that you pass them out as they are the following morning when you defecate. Unlike the ruminants, like the cows, you do not grossly see the weeds in the stools because their stomachs are designed to thoroughly digest weeds. The carbohydrate contents of vegetables are not well absorbed by our digestive system. Fruits that you can eat include coconut, guyabano or soursop, strawberries, other varieties of berries, dragon fruit, avocado, guava, lanzones, oranges, pomelo, melon, etc. However, you must avoid imported fruits because they are filled with agricultural chemicals, plus the fact that purchasing imported fruits does not support the local farmers and agriculturists. Meat of various varieties include pork, beef, goat, lamb, poultry such as chicken, quail, duck, turkey, ostrich, deep sea fish such as salmon, tuna, mackerel, halibut, etc. Animal products merely contain fats and proteins and do not cause sudden rise in blood glucose levels, even when they are taken in large quantities. Eat only fresh meat cooked as your favorite dishes using the permitted seasonings and condiments. Avoid processed products such as tocino, longanisa, bacon, ham, hot dog, canned meat, etc. because they have hidden sugars. The only animal product that contains sugar in the form of lactose is milk. Milk was created by God as food for infants only. Beyond this age, you are not supposed to drink milk. If ever you do, you must make sure that the milk you drink comes from your mother's breast and not from any other lactating animal. In regard to the foods that you are allowed to eat, you can eat as much as you can, all you want. It is unlimited. You do not have to count the total calories. I recommend that you do so that you will never be tempted to eat the prohibited foods if ever you go hungry sooner than your next meal. To prevent you from eating prohibited foods, I also recommend that you take boiled eggs and chicharron as snacks whenever you need to fix your hunger in between your meals. You may have varieties of eggs such as from chicken, duck, quail, goose, etc. Chicharron must be pig skin, chicken skin, tuna skin, or any edible animal skin, and not that which is made from flour. When you follow the recommended management, including the diet, properly and sincerely, the blood sugar level will be normal in 4 weeks. If your blood sugar level remains high beyond the period, it indicates that you have not followed the management scheme strictly. The diabetic diet is not for a lifetime. If you maintain the normal blood glucose level for 4 consecutive months, this signifies that you are no longer diabetic. Thus, you can begin taking some foods that were prohibited at the start of your management. If the blood glucose levels remain constantly normal for 6 months, you may now eat any healthy food, even those that have high glucose contents. Just make sure that your body remains hydrated adequately. Diabetes is associated with aging and seemed an unavoidable outcome of living to a mature life. It was not recognized that a gradual loss of thirst perception as you grow older is responsible for the onset of chronic dehydration and subsequent diabetes. Chronic dehydration kills prematurely and painfully. Naturally, an increase in daily water intake and the use of Ionique CMD that contains the essential minerals will correct diabetes. I hope I have properly presented the reasons why you develop diabetes. You can conquer it by taking sufficient volume of purified drinking water that is supplemented with essential minerals, specifically with the use of Ionique concentrated mineral drops or Ionique CMD. I have helped resolve numerous diabetic patients restore their health, and I'm very confident that you will also be one of them. Diabetes is a curable disease when utilizing natural ingredients that God provided us. So cheer up! I thank you so much for spending your precious time in watching this video presentation very patiently. If the concept discussed here helped you conquer your diabetes, please be kind and grateful enough to share it with others who are also suffering from it. They too deserve to be blessed just as you were. I again extend my most sincere gratitude to you, and may the good Lord be with you always. Once again, I'm Dr. Renato Paragas, the Water Dog.
Pakinggan natin ang pahayag ng isang best-selling author at Catholic preacher na si Brother Bo Sanchez hinggil sa ating water doc, Dr. Renato Paragas.
You know, we want to be healthy, but guess what? The blessings are already there, but we don't see it. I'll give you an example. Dr. Paragas, my friend, he's been able to heal a lot of people with all sorts of diseases by just one simple thing, one simple tweak. He increases their water intake depending on their body weight. And so for me, it's like 4 liters, like 3.4. And it has done wonders to my health. Amazing. So he's been able to heal people with hypertension,